Thank you, Michael. I think we were really nervous to be the first ones, but I think you broke the ice, so I hope it's going to be easier. So I'm Emmanuel, here's Diego. We're going to be speaking on behalf of the whole team. There's Jorge, and we call him Nacho. Ignacio, it's over there. We wanted the whole team to be here, so there would be someone at least in the audience that knows our work and is going to be supportive. So I need to start this. Well, we'd like to thank, of course, first of all, Anne and everyone from the Architectural League, Gabriel, Saga, everyone, because they were really supportive. They answered like 1,000 emails in the last 3 months probably. And for an office like ours, it's really important to get, getting one of these prizes for us. It's really an exposure that we need. It's really difficult for small offices to get an exposure, and I think this is a great platform and an unbelievable platform, and we were so happy, so glad to win this year, to be part of the team. Especially, the work, all the 6 firms have really nice work, and we are really happy to be part of those. So before we start the core of the presentation, we'd like to sort of introduce the firm, who we are and how we work really quickly, and that we're going to do it through the website. That's the design for our website. When we first started the office, we sat together and thought, well, the website is basically a facade that everyone sees, no matter what they are, and so for us, we needed to convey the way we work and somehow the structure of the office. So that's how it looks, and it's got many chapters. As you can see, there's these numbers, and there's Academy, Research, News. What it is well, and here of course you have MMX. First of all, there's a team. We are 4, and as Michael said, we really think working as a team, it really help us pushing our work and our thoughts, beyond what you would do if you were on your own, trying to just make the right decision. There's always this pressure, I need to make this decision. So when you're 4, it's easier to confront these ideas. And it's not, of course, only 4 of us. We have more legs and heads, as Michael said. There's people working with us. So we really believe that 2 heads are better than 1, 4 heads are better than 2, and I don't know how many eyes would that be, but it's we really think that there's no, at least today, it's really difficult to work on our own. So we believe in confronting ideas. This is one of the principles we said when we sat together at the beginning, that we needed to really create debate between us. And so we have a session every week. Every Wednesday we have a design session. So we're all aware of all the projects, and it's really nice because you're not afraid of, it's your work, but your work as a team. So you're not really afraid of trying to find the weaknesses of your work, and you can just tell them. If you don't know the answer, someone would do it. If you're on your own, sometimes you tend to block all these weaknesses and say, you get really stubborn. So it's I think if you have more than 1 stubborn people, then it's easier to evolve these ideas. So the office the core of the office is, the core of the work goes here, which is not building types. We decided not to put building types, but to put just a range of scales. These are square meters, so hundreds, thousands, etc. So I guess if you add a 0, you might get an idea in square feet. So the work, it's arranged this way, and whatever they are, whatever building type they are, they just fit into a certain scale, and they start to make groups just naturally, because we don't think there should be a separation, a division between interior design, architecture, urban design, and we do a little bit of everything because we are 4 and we feel comfortable in different areas. So we decided not to put a barrier, a threshold between these things, but just to think that it's a continuum. We've got these blogs attached to to the web page. So one, of course, it's news, everything that's in progress, or you know, things we want to say or convey that are, you know, related to the just the normal work we do at the office is here. We've got another blog that is called Academy. We decided that as an office we needed to have at least one foot at the Academy, and as Michael said, we have plenty. So because 3 of us are teaching regularly, we have studios, we're running studios of urban design, in Mexico City, we've been in Texas as well. And we think it's so refreshing, and you learn so much from just running studios, and it's almost like a project on itself. You know, you preparing these studios. It's a project for us. You know, we sit and we go through what we want to get from it, what we want to give to the students, and for us it's really important because it reflects on our work. And we have this other blog as well that we call Research. I don't know if it's the right name, but this is basically all these ideas that along the process we think, you know, there was a really nice idea at some point developing a certain project, and for a certain reason you change path, and that idea just, you know, it stays there, and then you continue in a different path. Then we really think that those ideas are really, really important. You know, they might not help us, you know, for a particular project, but they might be useful later on. And we put actually this slide as the last of these blogs today, because I guess what we did for the exhibition, and we'll explain that later, basically it's very much related to this blog. So a lot of these the ideas were basically ideas that we took back from previous developments. So we just take some time to just format these ideas, and they're there alive instead of being in a drawer. So that takes us to today. No precedent. And this was the theme, as Anne explained, no precedent. And we weren't really, we weren't planning on submitting this prize this year. A friend of us was really supportive, saying you should do it. And so we said to him, well, we're going to sit together, we're going to try and see if our work somehow could fall into this idea of no precedent. And if we think it's got a meaning there, then we're going to do it. Otherwise, we didn't want to force it. So we sat together, and I must say it was really hard. You know, really, really hard. When you have, you know, this theme there on the table, it's just really difficult. How can you say that, you know, what you do has never been done before, or nothing, you know, has ever been, not even similar, you know, to what you do has never been done, and it's really difficult because whatever you think, it starts to feel really pretentious, you know, when you try to explain it like straight away. So we said, no, this is not working, and it's not working because actually we think that precedents are unavoidable. So you know, everything you see, everything you read, everything if you go to a museum, to a landscape, you know, everything, you know, it's basically a lot of information that's informing whatever you do, whatever you think. So precedents are there, and not only in architecture. We think that, you know, even your everyday life, precedents, you know, let's say communications, you know, long distance communications. You have this, you know, iPhone, you know, when it first came out, you know, we all thought, you know, this is great, you know, this is really new, and it's a great invention, you know, getting, you know, this gadget functioning as it is. But then you realize that it's got a precedent. You know, there's always a precedent behind, you know, no matter how steps or how ugly the precedent is, you know, there's always a precedent, and that precedent, of course, has also a precedent, and so on. You know, you can always track back, you know, one step or many steps, you know, what the precedent is, and so we thought, you know, this is really, really hard. You cannot escape, and even when you think that, you know, you've reached a point where there is no further precedent, you can actually say, well, if you think about it, you would step by step, you will always go to the origin at some point. This example might be smoke signals or something like that. If you go many steps there. So we said, there is no way of escaping precedents, and in fact, in our work, we're always trying to search precedents, to search things that we come across in our everyday life that might inform the work. And that's when, during the discussion, came this idea. This is the booklet, the portfolio we submitted for this year's prize, and that's the text we wrote. It's, again, it's really short, so you have to be very, the idea needs to be really clean and strong. And we said, well, if we cannot avoid having precedents, maybe that's the key to how to, to take our work and then put it into this under, this theme. And what we said is, of course, each of our projects is somehow related to a precedent, and actually deliberately we are trying to make sure that these precedents, these everyday things that we come across, are really informing the design, and not only are informing, but then when you know where it's coming from, it's really obvious what they're doing. So it needs to be really simple, and in your, no matter whether it's a toy or vernacular architecture or a landscape or a painting or a sculpture in a museum, there is always something that might help you for your design. And so we thought, maybe that's really could lead to an unprecedented idea. Not the fact that you have no precedents, but that you take precedents from somewhere else, you understand the logic, you unravel the logic there, and then you sort of transport that into architecture. And by doing this, a logic that is not meant to be, thought for that, then once it goes into solving an architectural problem, you might have an unprecedented end to it, if you want, in terms of methodology or in terms of how it works, but we thought that might be the idea. So when going through our work, we realized that we could always track, and sometimes it was really obvious and deliberately done, and that you always have these precedents, no matter whether it's classic architecture for installations, or a toy that would give you the answer to a structure, how to lay out a structure, how to work with the parts, or like a train track, sleepers that might help you to building something in a certain way. Even vernacular architecture in terms of techniques, that could, how can you apply that into modern, if not modern, but a new house that is built in 2010. So all these images, were giving us the answer to a certain project, and we were actually going through these things again and again. This is a sculpture from Rudasawa. We came across it in San Francisco, and just the relationship between interior and exterior just helped us getting this concept for a tower we designed. Which actually this one we collaborated with Matei Dennis here in New York, and or a landscape for a master plan, or a painting from in Helsinki would lead to a larger vision for the harbor of Helsinki. So that's what we did when we sat there, and we said, well, maybe we can tell the story like this because we believe in this story. We are actually always trying to go to simple things, not trying to overcomplicate things, or not trying to go to decipher the most elaborated algorithm to create something. But you might get really interesting things just from looking carefully to things that you come across in your everyday life. So for this presentation, we chose to show 3 projects that Diego's going to start talking about, which have a lot of relation. Well, they're basically the precedent, if you want, for the installation we did. So we just chose 2 projects before explaining what we did here that could just lead to a better understanding of what our pieces.
First of all, I have to apologize since my English is a little bit rusted by now, but I'll do my best. As Emmanuel was saying, I'm going to present two projects. I wouldn't say not as precedents necessarily, but some projects we did as opportunities to start testing, and we kind of found some, let's say, logics or ways of working that somehow explain or we tested to be able to put in the gallery what we put and to make this project happen. So the first one is the Eco Pavilion that was done last year. This is our image. I wouldn't say again present, but this is the image that we kind of came across and thought it was interesting and put it in our website as a piece of information that would be usable at a certain point, and we found at a certain moment the opportunity to use it. The Eco Pavilion was done in Eleco, which is a museum made by German Polish artist that lived in Mexico. He was mainly a sculptor, but he was a very talented artist, and he did this manifesto in 1952 when the Eco Pavilion was open. And funny enough, it has to be a sculptor that came with the architects to say, wait a second, like modernism has all these advantages, but also architecture should perform not only in spatial terms, not only in terms of buildability, but it has to perform also in the emotional level. So he did this emotional architecture manifesto in order to open this space, and he made a statement that we read and we studied since the school, and then we finally had this opportunity, and then we tried to continue this thing. These are some images of the museum that you can see. That's the entrance, but it has a particularity. He used to make the spaces narrow in order to give some different effects on the space, and then when you go into the space you find this light at the end of the corridor, and then you turn and then you find the window, and then you find the patio, and you see this white volume prism going up to the sky, and it's a very simple promenade, let's say, but it's really full of spatial phenomena and emotion. So this is the patio where we were asked to kind of do something, and what we thought first was, like, there's this patio. On the left part there is a building by Fernando Romero, which is like an extension of the museum, and although in the form it might seem that it kind of relates to the existing one, it doesn't in spatial terms. And there is this prism, this vertical yellow prism that performs with the moving of the sun, and it casts shadows all around the patio, and we were really attracted by that object. But we decided that we didn't want to do an object. There was already an object there, and so we decided to somehow engage with the space. And then we went again to these ideas of the textiles, of the strings, and of course we also had restrictions about budget. We had a very low budget, and then the question was, like, we don't want to make like little or big object, it doesn't matter, but we don't want to place something in the middle of the space. We want to engage with the space. And then we did this model. There's another thing we say in the office, that if we can't make a model of it, we can't build it. And then we did this little model, and we kind of tested and found a lot of problems that we actually came across when we built the real thing. And we also found of course solutions. This was a little bit like the idea, and it was a very, very basic exercise of ruled surfaces on top of the patio, and we discovered a lot of things. So the materials we used weren't a decision we made. The materials were kind of a logic step after what we were asked to do and the money we had. So we decided to use strings and chains. That's a little bit the process of how we built it. And the chain gave us, again, the chain, we didn't decide the chain because we like it, but because it gave us opportunity to kind of very precisely construct or put in position each one of the strings. And again, it's a very, very simple, and the steps are very, very simple. We could communicate really well with the guys that built it. And finally, it was there. The shadows would cast. We were really surprised by many things that happened. Also, the shadow of the vertical yellow prisma would split into the surfaces, and many effects that we weren't expecting, and others that we did were part of the installation. And at the end, it was just like let's say a space frame that allowed the space to be articulated in different ways and oriented in different ways in order to house different events from cinema, fashion shows, talks, conferences, whatever. These are some pictures from a friend of us, Yoshihiro Koitani. And so this was a perspective. When you turn to the left at the end of the corridor, you find the window, and then you face this let's say new space in the middle of the patio. And at the end we had to undo all this, which was good because they are planning to continue a little bit like here, to continue this thinking about what are the possibilities of that space. It was also good because they gave us back all these strings. We don't know what to do with them now. And this previous project led us to this other one. This is called the Pavilion. You might know the Fashion Night Out. That's something that is international. US is not that. It's not that international. So this was that's a fashion event where all the stores in the cities kind of opened their stores to 3 o'clock in the morning, and they want a lot of people to come in. Of course, you don't need that in New York. But here in Mexico, and I don't want to go too much into that, but instead of doing something in the streets and opening all these stores to the people, they actually did the other way around. They hired a gallery, a closed space, and there was where they showed all the things. And so they come with us and say like, well, we want you to make a piece, and this is the space, and that's the program somehow, and we're going to put some dresses and shoes and stuff over here and over there. And we were like, wait a second, but didn't you understand that we don't want to do an object? Like, we don't do that. So we went to visit the space, and we decided that we wanted to offer them not to do an object, but to engage again with the space. So we proposed 3 screens. At the end, we just did one. And our client, or our sponsor, was American Express. They told us that, well, first, before that, the question here was like, we know nothing about fashion. But what we do know is that fashion, or what we speculate, is that fashion has to do with fabrics somehow, leather or whatever. You can see it as a fabric. They are flexible things with which you can work and you manipulate in order to get some form. And what was interesting for us was the actual performance of the fabrics. So American Express told us that They didn't have money, which is weird. But they told us, like, we're not giving you money, we're not paying you anything, but we can give you cards. Anything but cards. And we went like, okay, what can we do? And then after certain experiments or tries in the office, we decided to do this. We had this very little element to work with. We needed to give it some strength, so we decided to fold it a little bit. We decided to make this 4 pieces component, which had this flat one that would interlock, and then we could start weaving all this thing, and we started kind of discovering this fabric we wanted to work with. And then we made a piece like 3 feet by 3 feet, and called American Express and said, like, okay, you said you were going to give us some cards. We need 21,000 cards. and they said, of course they were a little bit surprised, but at the end they honored their word and they gave us the cards. And then, well, with this previous very simple assembly logic I showed before, we just transmitted this to a group of women that helped us to build this thing. And here I just want to kind of say that for us it's very, very important, the fabrication process. We think there has been, and it's fortunately changing, but there has been a certain divorce between the process of design and the process of fabrication. It has been kind of going to the more, let's say, digital fabrication, and not only because we're Mexicans and we are supposed to be poor and all that stuff, but I mean, we do have, we don't have ARUC, or I don't know, these offices that are used to try to get what the architect wants. We don't have that, or if we do, we can't pay it. But we also have other, a reality, I mean, a tradition of building, a tradition of working with the hands, and I have to say also, I'm not supporting that, but it's how it is. Like, we have cheap labor. So if we see that as not as a constraint, but as an opportunity, and you work with that, and you go, let's say, bottom up in terms of fabrication, then you can get certain interesting things. And that's a little bit what we started thinking. So those were the 21,000 cards, and then the process, it was very simple. We just said, like, you do this, you join cards one by one, and then you have half of the problem, and so on. And they started building these things. So we went from the cards to the components, to the weaving, to this big piece of fabric made out of cards. And finally we had to assemble it in the gallery, and again it started. That was a very interesting moment, because we actually understood by weighting it, by carrying it, by trying to put it there, we did understand, like, the material performance of what we did. And again, not necessarily we know where we are going when we are doing something. Finally, there was the opening of the show. And these are some of the pictures. So it was about the performance of the fabric, but also the performance in the space. This is a picture where you can see the 2 doors are facing each other. So when you go into the gallery, you actually see all the way to the wall that is at the end of the gallery. And we wanted to do this screen that would make you turn, actually face the counter, and things that don't happen today.
So these are the 2 projects we decided to show today, or tonight, and that we thought, they have and you'll see. I hope you'll see why we chose those, and why they have this strong relation to leading to what we did today. Well, this week at the Architectural League installation here at Parsons, and as you can see, each of these projects have a very simple logic behind it. For the fashion show, as David was saying, we said, well, it's a fashion show. We wanted to have some things done, in terms of architecture, but at the end we just did a textile because that related to fashion, and that was we made it work as a textile. So we just folded it, and these really simple logics, they become really interesting for us to develop. For the Architectural League, we were asked to exhibit our work at the gallery that's just behind us, and Anne sent this a series of pictures. This is one of them. This is, I think, when Michael's work is probably there. Yeah. So it's pretty. I guess it's really familiar. To you this image. But when we received these images, we started thinking, how can you actually convey, how the office works through an exhibition that's going to be there for 2 or 3 months, and what is the best way for us to express how we work and what our work is about. And then we saw these really nice models and collages, and you see these huge tiny models, and we said, well, we could send models as well. We started to gather a series of projects that had a relationship between them, and we said, well, maybe we can send a series of models that have a strong relationship between them, so we can talk about a little bit about that. But at the end, we didn't do it because we said it's going to be really difficult for us if you don't know the projects to really understand what our work is about and how we work. If you see a model, it's basically out of context already. So it's really difficult to get into what the project is about, and then you would have to have a lot of information, we thought, to really fully understand each of the projects and how they might relate to. So we said, why don't, instead of showing of bringing models, which for us was really difficult. We're traveling from Mexico, so how many models could we carry, with our hands? We weren't going to pay, a cargo ship to New York, so. You would say, it's already complicated. So why don't we just do a piece? Why don't we just do a project for the gallery, a very simple project, and that we'll explain. And then maybe through that project we could convey the ideas, our ideas on how we work, because you're going to be there. It's going to be on the site. It's not going to be out of context. This project is going to be made specifically for this gallery, and. So you could actually experience, as Michael was saying, you can experience one of our projects, and for us it was the best way we could explain our work instead of showing. So we decided not to bring any project or model or board with us showing all the projects. So this is the plan we received from the gallery, and just by looking at this image here, we figured, there was going to be a lot of information, visual information, around in the gallery at the time we were going to have to put our stuff there. So we said, well, why don't we, instead of trying to compete with the rest and trying to, not overshadow because of the fact that when you put a piece next to another and you don't know what the other piece is going to be like, then it's really difficult to make it work. For us it was really difficult to imagine what they would do. So we said, why don't we just create like a room within a room, so that you could have a screen that would be like a piece that it's our piece there. It's like a big model, just like everyone else's models. So it's going to work with the other ones on its own way, but it's going to create a space behind that screen. And what you see once you go there at the gallery, what really interests us in this installation is not the screen on itself, but the space that is created behind. So there's this little corner going back and forth with Anne. At the end, we decided to use the corner, and one of Anne's suggestions actually was to use the walls, because we had a piece that was a little bit detached, and we thought, that's a brilliant idea. Why don't we just, that would make the space part of our piece. So so once you are there behind that screen, you're a little bit detached from all the information that's going to be happening in the gallery, and then we could probably put a text or something that talks about our office, so that you can read like without any other distraction. But at the same time, we have this space that is somehow working with the other pieces. And I think, I was really happy when I saw all the rest of the pieces, because I think they work really, really nicely together. But we had this, so that was our intention in terms of spatial speciality, well, what we wanted to create in terms of space and how to engage with the space. The problem was that we needed to travel from Mexico City to New York, and as I said, we only had one carry-on bag, and then you have another one, and that's it. So fortunately for us, we're four, so that we had more than two pieces. But that was a whole challenge, and it was I can say it was the fun part to solve. And that's when the idea started to really go really fast. So we had only, the size. We needed to have packages the size of a carry-on bag. And if you see the plan, if you remember the plan, we had. The surface we wanted to create. That screen was, I don't know how many feet would that be, but like 20 feet or 25 feet by 25 feet. It's pretty large in terms of. How do you take that? Because it's easy if as we did with the carts, you sort of prefabricate everything. You have a huge roll there, and then you just take it with a truck. You go there and then you put it there in the gallery. We couldn't do that. So we started to have a lot of ideas. How can we? So we need something that can be really big, but at the same time we can compress it in the minimum volume. And at some point we came across this idea of origami, and we thought, this is really interesting. Origami is really familiar to everyone. Everyone can relate to origami. Everyone has seen one. Even a child can. It's familiar for a 5-year-old kid, and it's doing everything we needed. So you can stretch it, and you can have a larger surface, and at the same time you can actually compress it into the thickness, only the thickness of the paper. So that was the key to our piece, and we actually started to look into origami books and internet, and we started researching a lot of origami techniques, and we went through I don't know how many models. These are just a few of the models we went through, but really making the patterns with our hands and with sheets of paper. We were really doing one, another one, and until we actually came across one pattern that was performing really nicely in terms of what we wanted, and it was so simple because it was one of this pattern, which is this one, which is the one we used for the exhibition. It's so simple. It's just this square with diagonals, and it's just, the square is shifting, and that's it. There's a lot of really complicated ones, but this is really the base for a lot of other forms that they do. So we said, well, this is doing everything we want, so why should we complicate it more? So why don't we just take this one and just make it really big, so that we can use it as a screen. And so this was that's the process of doing it. And then once we had this surface, we started to look how it would perform. What was the best way of shaping it or laying that out so in the space in that corner so that it would work. And so we went through many models until this was the simplest form. We could actually create a space behind that would give us this space. And so we decided to go for this, and as simple as that. And so we did it. So we went and we bought this huge roll of paper, and we scored it, we taped it, we folded, keep folding it and folded, and it was like a never-ending story. You know, at some point we were like, you know, this is going nowhere, but at the end we managed to do it. And then after you have all these folds, if you want, then it's really interesting how the paper starts to come alive. You know, there's a really, you know, this slide just took us, I don't know, like a couple of weeks from you know, A to Z, if you want. And the other one was done in half an hour for each of these pieces, so it just comes alive really nicely. And then, you know, and then you can compress it. And the shape, I mean, the pattern was giving us a lot of the properties we were searching. And of course, the most important one was this. You know, it could go up to, I don't know, like 20 feet or something, or even more when you stretch it, and then it could be as small as this. So we had these 6 pieces done at the office that were big enough to fit into the plane, and of course packing was really important. So one of the things that this pattern had was that we could actually interlock them, so there would be no space wasted in the packaging. So, you know, that's one piece, and you put 2, and then that's the box. And you would see the boxes, we actually put the boxes inside, so there's only 3 boxes we brought from Mexico City that you can see there. And you can compare with the size of the screen if you go inside this little space. And so the installation has these two faces. So, you know, there's this white face, this white pattern that is basically, for us, was more calm and tranquil with the rest of the gallery. It's white, so it works very well with whatever piece would be next to it. And then on the inside, you have this sort of spiky pattern, which is brown and it's darker. And I think we like the fact that you have these 2 faces to it. And this is what a test we did at the model shop in our office. We weren't actually prepared for the Manhattan humidity. You know, we had some issues there, but I mean, it's always part of the fun, I guess. And also CCTV cameras, and we had some interesting. So this is the outside, and this is the inside. So again, I encourage you to, once you're there, to really go inside. You know, our idea is not what you see from the outside. The outside is just the outcome of what we wanted to create inside. And here you would have this space that looks like this, or it used to look like that in our office. Where you can actually calmly go through some leaflets that we brought from Mexico City that talk about our office. So this is you were going to find this leaflet that has 2 sides. It's folded as well, and that you have some projects that relate to the project we actually, well, the installation we did, and then on the other side you have a little text that talks about us as an office, how we work. And you have the text that we submitted for the prize. But we didn't want just to have a leaflet just like that. You know, that's a piece of information that you take and you go. So we wanted the leaflet to talk about the installation as well, to be like almost like in terms of conceptual terms, like a loop, so that even if you take when you take the leaflet, you would take part of the installation. So if you take the leaflet works like this. And on the the one part is the projects, and the other one you have all the lines, so you can have your very own little installation at home with the instructions. So if you want to have both, because it's really difficult to read information once it's folded, I suggest you take 2. But for us, it was really important to have this leaflet as part of the installation. It's like because it's this knowledge that we borrow from people who actually developed origami. We took it and we sort of transported it into architecture, and we said, well, it is like Diego was saying, there's like open source information, so it's not like we invented anything in this idea of precedence. So it's information that was out there that we use for architecture. So for us, the leaflet was a way of giving, you know, out, or like giving you this knowledge. So, you know, this is the pattern we use. You can do, you know, like or think or rethink whatever you want with what we did. So for us, it's just a step along the, you know, a larger process. And this is the final set of images. So for us, it was really, and I haven't talked about this, but this is an image of a Japanese well, drawing. I don't know exactly when this was drawn, but we, you know, in our minds, we can imagine that it's a 10th century, you know, like it's scene in Japan. And this is really important for us because origami was developed more than 1,000 years ago, and so it was really important for us to do a pavilion for this no precedent theme, with taking a precedent that was really obvious, and it's not a precedent that is from 2 years, from 5 years, it's from more than 1,000 years ago. So, and we did it in a way we wanted to go to the extreme to do it as if it could have been done 1,000 years ago. So what we did was we used no computer whatsoever in this for this installation. So there was no drawing done, no Grasshopper, no Maya, no CNC machine. So it was done as if, you know, it could have been done in, you know, like 1,000 years ago. And it's not that we're against all these things, because we do use these tools, but it was just this idea of reinforcing this idea of no precedence. So this image could have looked like this if at some point, you know, a Japanese in the 10th century would have thought, you know, maybe we can do it like a gigantic piece of origami, you know, there was no reason why this wouldn't have happened. So that's it. Thank you very much.